Putin's invasion in a sightline now from NATO territory. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky keeps urging the United States and its allies to impose a no-fly zone over his nation so the Russians can stop bombing civilians from the air.
Тепер це очевидно. І зараз я повторюю знову, якщо ви не закриєте наше небо, то це лише питання часу, коли російські ракети впадуть вже на вашу територію, на територію НАТО, на домівки громадян країн НАТО.
A Wall Street Journal op-ed calls for a show of force from NATO. The headline, "Send troops to Western Ukraine." Kurt Volker, former United States ambassador to NATO and former special representative for Ukraine negotiations under President Trump, is in focus now. Ambassador, thank you for being with us. I want to first start with Article 5, which obligates us to fight along with NATO forces should a red line be crossed. That training base, reportedly with Westerners on it. We don't have all the demographics of everybody yet. I'm wondering about the red line. Like, how close is too close at this point?
Well, that is a very reckless and dangerous thing for Putin to do. I think he did it because his forces are not advancing in the way he wanted them to, so he's resorting to more missile attacks and more aerial attacks, targeting civilians as well. It is too close to NATO, but it doesn't trigger the Article 5 red line. It's not on NATO territory. It's not an attack on NATO. But he is getting dangerously close to that, and we had better be prepared to show that we will not tolerate that.
Are we prepared from what you've seen?
Well, I was encouraged to hear Jake Sullivan's comments because he did say this. He did say that we will not allow any attack on NATO. It would be game over as far as that's concerned. What we need to see more of, however, is more robust support for the Ukrainians so that we don't have to come in and do the fighting. The Ukrainians want the aircraft. They want the other supplies. They are willing to fight. They are holding their own. We should be giving them everything we can.
So when critics have harsh words for the President of the United States with regard to what you're saying, you know, they're accusing him of being weak, basically chicken, to send in what they need because Putin says it looks like war. What's your reaction to that?
Well, there's several things. First off, you know, you have to respect the judgment that getting U.S. forces in direct conflict with Russian forces could escalate a war. So that's a reasonable thing to think about. However, we have to look at the moral side of this, and we see what Russia is doing to a civilian population. You know, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And we're dangerously close of repeating that mistake again in Ukraine. Then you look at what the Ukrainians are asking for. We have the ability to do more without putting those forces in harm's way. And then finally, Putin is not doing well in this war. The last thing he wants is to draw NATO into it. So I don't think we should be deterred by Putin. I think we should be setting the terms ourselves of what we are going to do.
And why do you think that's not happening? Why do you think that we have Russia at the table right now negotiating a deal with Iran? Like, why is that happening?
Well, the Iran thing, let's leave that aside. You know, Russia's never been on our side trying to get Iran to give up a nuclear weapon.
I don't think we can leave it aside. With all due respect, Ambassador Volker, and I'll tell you why. Because we're sanctioning them, but yet we need them. They're not going to take us seriously. Putin's not going to take us seriously. He knows we need them.
Yeah, we have to take Iran nuclear program on our own because Russia's never going to actually help. The fact that we think we need them for this negotiation is just misplaced. We need to take our own counsel of what to do about Iran's nuclear program.
So push them out of the
Ukraine, deal. It's not a matter of pushing them out. They're not helping. They've never been helping. They're not trying to help.
Senator Lindsey Graham with some very harsh words for the Biden administration. That's what I was speaking of before. He accuses Biden of slow-walking those very jets that you talked about for Ukraine. And possibly, well, let's watch it.
The only way this war ends is with Putin either going to jail or be taken out by his own people. How do you make that happen? You help the Ukrainians. They need MiGs. It is deplorable to me, dishonorable, that we would not give 28 fighter jets to the Ukrainians to defend their skies against Russian aggression. The Biden administration stopped that transfer. Putin threatened Biden, and he folded like a cheap suit. Give them the planes.
First, your reaction to that.
Well, I agree. There's no reason not to give them the planes. We're giving them all other kinds of weaponry, Stinger missiles, Javelin anti-tank systems. They have the pilots. They're trained on these aircraft. They fly them already. They need the support. No reason not to do this.
What's your thought on why it's not happening? And look, I don't want to take you down the political road. I mean, are we talking about an administration that looks chicken to the rest of the world?
Well, I think there's a line somewhere that the Biden administration imagines is there between helping the Ukrainians and crossing that line where then Putin considers it to be a war against Russia. And they don't want to drag us into that war against Russia. But I think we have a lot more running room than the Biden administration may think, because Putin doesn't want the war with us. No, he is not doing well in Ukraine. A lot of the things we're seeing him do right now, to me, appear to be acts of desperation. He's arrested some of his top generals and top intelligence officers. He's asking for Syrian fighters to come in and fight alongside the Russians, asking for help from China. He's changed his tactics from trying to conquer Ukraine to trying to destroy Ukraine. He's deliberately targeting civilians. This is someone who knows things are not going well. And the sanctions applied on Russia are serious. They're having an impact. And so he knows his time is limited as well.
All right. And ours is too. Unfortunately, I could talk to you all day. So they're going to have a fourth talk, Kyiv and Moscow. Yeah. What do we anticipate? Are they just spinning their wheels? Because they shell cities while they say they're negotiating.
Yeah, the Russians are not serious about negotiating right now because they don't feel enough counterpressure. They are trying to give talks an opportunity for the Ukrainians to surrender. Ukrainians aren't going to do that. Maybe they'll agree on some humanitarian corridors so civilians can get out and humanitarian goods can get in. But the Russians are not seriously negotiating about ending the war. They want to conquer and destroy Ukraine, and they're just going to press that until they're stopped.
Real quickly, what is counterpressure for Russia?
Everything that we can do. Everything that we can do. We should arm the Ukrainians.
Right,
we should provide planes, anti-tank systems, anti-missile systems, shore-to-ship systems to back the ships off the Black Sea coast, keep them out of Odessa. I still favor a no-fly zone because I think it can be done, and the Ukrainians are begging for it, and it would save civilian lives, purely humanitarian. And I think as we watch this, we're going to find that we're going to have to confront Putin one way or another before too long. We should do it when the Ukrainian government is still standing.
And when they're suffering, the Russians. I mean, we're hearing of them like freezing to death inside their tanks. That's so interesting to hear you double down on the no-fly zone, but it has a timing element to it. I get it, Ambassador Volker. Okay, last thing. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett outlined how the world can hold Putin accountable and charge him with war crimes. Greg says that the United Nations should circumvent the ICC because we can't really even put pressure on them, the International Criminal Court. We could try, and establish a special tribunal. What do you think of this?
I think it's a good idea. It's been done in the cases of Yugoslavia and Rwanda, and I think it would apply here. Neither Russia nor the United States is a member of the ICC. A brief has been filed by Ukraine and joined by dozens of other countries in the International Court of Justice, the UN ICJ. But in addition to that, I do believe that a special tribunal for this war is appropriate.
Last question. What keeps you up at night over the situation with Russia, Ukraine, mix in China, mix in Iran?
Yeah, several things. First off, it's the impact on civilians. I know so many people in Ukraine. I've worked with them. I've tried to develop an American university in Kyiv, and I think about them every day, every evening. And likewise, I see that this war can get bigger. China, as you mentioned, has been asked by Russia to come and provide support for the Russian forces there. The Russians, if they subdue Ukraine, will move right to Moldova and possibly Georgia. So this has all the elements of growing into a bigger war. We should be doing everything we can to make sure he is stopped in Ukraine.
Ambassador Volker, come back and focus. Look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you for your time and your expertise.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.